Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, High-Income Physicians Building Success Through High-Limit Income Protection. Before we get started, I would like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. We've taken a screenshot of an example of the attendee interface. You should see something that looks like this on your own computer desktop in the upper right corner. You've joined the presentation listening to your computer's speaker system by default, and if you would prefer to join over the telephone, just select telephone in the audio pane and the dial-in information will be displayed. You will have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenter by typing those questions into your questions pane of your control panel. You may send your questions in at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's event. We will address as many questions as possible. Any questions that we do not get to will be sent by email response. I would now like to introduce Kurt Meyer, Vice President of Sales at MGIS.
Thank you, Kat. Hello, this is Kurt Meyer, VP of Sales at MGIS. Welcome to our webinar on MGIS's high-limit disability program for doctors and dentists. During the time we have, we'll explore why you may want to target doctors and dentists as a revenue growth strategy, what their special needs are, and solutions to meet those needs. And finally, we'll look at the commission revenue potential for brokers. So why target this vertical? A strong reason to target doctors and dentists is that they generally recognize they have unique income replacement needs. The medical schools and residency programs provide many financial planning seminars that teach that lesson. But many are not aware that a total solution exists for them beyond the limits they can get with individual disability insurance. This presents an opportunity for highly consultative brokers to grow their revenues by acquiring new clients and by adding new coverages to existing ones. But what creates the unique needs for these healthcare providers? It starts with the fact that doctors and dentists are disabled twice as often as the rest of us. This is because they make a living using their hands and body, similar to skilled trade workers. And they've invested years, if not decades, building their practice and setting their lifestyle on a specific set of medical procedures. So what happens if they can no longer perform those procedures? Could a hip specialist expect to get the same number of referrals if they suddenly became a knee doctor? What would a family practice physician do if he earned much of the income from delivering babies, but suddenly fell victim to a hand palsy or injury that stopped him from doing that? On top of this, physicians and dentists make a lot of money. Most spend a lot too. And younger doctors typically have an extraordinary amount of student loan and other debt. Where do they turn when they unexpectedly find themselves disabled? And the disability doesn't just disrupt their personal life. It puts their business, their practice, and their partners at risk too. Which is why doctors and dentists need both the right type and the right amount of income replacement coverage. What is the right type? Well, doctors and dentists expect their disability claims to be paid when they cannot perform the procedures on which they have built their careers and their family's lifestyle. They don't care what other doctors may be able to do, not even ones in their own specialty or subspecialty, not even what another partner in their practice might be able to do. Consider an orthopedic surgeon we know who's been the knee guy in Dallas. When he got a small palsy in one hand and could no longer perform the knee surgery he was renowned for, simply switching to another type of orthopedic work, like other doctors in his practice did, wasn't a topic he would even consider. The only way to truly ensure the level of coverage doctors need is to consider them disabled if they cannot do the actual procedures they have been performing, and to gauge that by reviewing their CPT and CDT codes. These are the set of medical and dental codes used to report medical, surgical, and diagnostic procedures to entities like other physicians, health insurance companies, and accreditation organizations. The income replacement gold standard for physicians and dentists is individual disability insurance, which pays them when they can no longer perform their actual procedures. And while it may not be possible to duplicate all the features of IDI in other disability products, it is critical to have this precise own procedures definition as an option for any disability policy we place with a doctor or a dentist. So what is the right amount of coverage? Right? We've considered the right type. When we think about the amount, some financial planning experts recommend that doctors maintain enough disability insurance to cover 80% of their net earnings. That considers their spending habits, debt load, and desire to maintain their family's lifestyle, which I touched on earlier. But how do high-earning physicians acquire this amount of coverage when individual disability carriers often place limits on the amount they'll issue? IDI might only provide 20% or so of a high earner's replacement need. An MGIS limits its IDI supplement plan, as do typical group carriers. After combining IDI and MGIS's IDI supplement programs for a typical group policy, you might still only have 40 to 60% of your healthcare clients' income covered, but 80% is the goal. So MGIS has the solution for both the right amount and the right type of coverage for your physician and dentist clients and prospects. And once you have handled their IDI, we're the only insurance organization in the country that does. You may be familiar with our IDI supplement program as the second layer of income protection for doctors on top of their IDI. In combination, the two will likely cover 40 to 60% of what these high-income docs need. With our Income Protect High Limit program, you get an important third layer. This fills the final gap for those high earners, allowing the total income replacement at 80% of net earned income and up to $10 million of additional disability payments. And as with MGIS's IDI supplement, our high limit program provides the right type of coverage. A primary reason for that is our unique own procedures definition of disability. Physicians send us their last 12 months of CPT codes or the CDT codes for dentists. And if they cannot perform one or more of their regular procedures, they are totally disabled, we pay. And it could be the doctor can perform all her typical procedures, but not as much as she used to. For example, your neurosurgeon client incurs a back problem. She can still do surgery, but can only stand for 2 or 3 surgeries a week instead of the 5 or 6 she used to. Qualifies as disabled. Right? At that point, returning to work becomes the dentist's choice. Right? Do they want to work part-time? Do they want to try teaching? If not, and they remain unable to perform one or more of their actual procedures, we continue to pay a total disability benefit. Of course, what if they do go back to work? Right? Well, after all, most doctors are type A personalities. In fact, they are on partial claim with us 5 times more often than their staff. So we pay generous partial benefits using a concept similar to the modified ON-OFF individual disability policies. Only we take it a step further than most. We actually calculate the partial benefit 2 ways each month the person's on a partial claim and always pay the higher of the 2 calculations. Right? The right coverage also means we're able to offer this with true guarantee issue. No health underwriting, no financial underwriting, no dangerous occupation underwriting, not even the need for a certification by a partner at the practice that no one has missed work. With as few as 5 enrolled doctors or dentists on a plan, there is some amount of coverage they simply ask for, and they get it. And there is more. As you might imagine, since doctors and dentists are the only occupations we cover, we have unique riders designed for their needs available on MGIS's high limit program. These riders actually pay when the physician is not disabled. I'll repeat that. These riders pay when they are not disabled. The first rider is our infectious and contagious disease benefit. If you think about it, when patients learn that their dentist has a potentially life-threatening contagious disease, such as AIDS, they may stop visiting that dentist, right? Which means the dentist's income could drop substantially, even though he or she is not actually disabled. Right? In this case, our infectious and contagious disease rider pays a benefit. Another instance could be a doctor who has been disabled for some period of time. His or her patients and referrals are going to go somewhere else. They still need to have the health care they need, right? And although the doctor might recover, it will take some time before the patient load and their income is back up to normal. In that case, again, our extended earnings benefit rider will pay for them. Right. Speaking of payments, we do offer 2 payment options. 1, a monthly benefit, and 2, a one-time lump sum benefit. The lump sum benefits are usually significant amounts. Could be $2 or $3 million. Right? And by the way, the definition of disability for the lump sum benefits extends to one other thing. It talks about it being a permanent disability where improvement is highly unlikely. But that's based on the inability to perform the actual procedures they've been doing in the prior 12 months. So in addition to personal protection, these payments can also be assigned to the practice or the clinic to fund a buy-sell agreement or to pay business overhead expenses if the IDI policies they have don't provide enough of that coverage. So a little bit more detail on some of the program elements. Consistent with our IDI supplement, MGIS's high limit program only covers doctors and dentists who are part of a sponsoring organization. This could be their medical or dental practice, a clinic, or a hospital. And actually, unlike the IDI supplement program, a medical association could also be the sponsoring organization. In fact, a few medical associations are looking into investing in a small amount of coverage using member dues as part of their marketing and retention strategies for membership. There are a few other high-level facets of the high-limit plan to consider. Generally, doctors and dentists earning $400,000 or more and part of a sponsoring organization are eligible. Remember, the program is intended to be a third layer of coverage, and this income threshold is where they'll likely need more protection than can be provided through the combination of IDI and our IDI supplement plan. Of course, there is some flexibility with that. As I mentioned earlier, we offer the ability to get the right amount of coverage, right, allowing up to 80% of net income replacement when combined with other disability products. You'll see we also have flexibility in the elimination and benefit periods, so you can tailor coverage to each of your client's needs. Right? The policy also includes the type of additional provisions you'd expect from MGIS. Right? We spoke about our best of both worlds partial payment approach. Then we have presumptive disability, recurrent, and waiver of premium provisions. Of course, those you'll see don't apply to the lump sum benefit. And the reason that's intended to be a one-time payment to somebody who is not expected to recover. Those type of standard benefits don't really apply in that situation. Okay. All right, and of course, we are going to pay for production. Right? Commissions with this product are a flat 12% for all years the policy is in force. Right? You can see that with every 10 practices written, you're likely to earn $30,000 of recurring annual income. You're getting closer to 45, writing 2 of the larger associations that might exist. Right? In both cases, I think you'll see it goes a long way towards covering the expenses of an administrative person at your agency. All right, so before we end and get into the questions, let me recap our discussion. Right? As we spoke at the beginning, targeting doctors and dentists may be an effective way for you to grow your agency revenue. They have special needs that aren't typically served, and they might not even be aware those solutions exist. Two of their critical needs are obtaining the right amount of coverage, specifically up to 80% income replacement, and the right type of coverage, with a key focus on paying doctors and dentists a benefit when they cannot perform the procedures they have built their practice and lifestyle on. MGIS is the only insurance organization that can provide both that right type and right amount of coverage to layer on top of your doctor or dentist individual disability insurance. With our high limit program, we can fill that coverage gap to replace the 80% of their income. And with our unique own procedures, definition of disability, we pay benefits when your client cannot perform the actual procedures on which they built their careers. They simply send us their CPT or CGT codes to establish what those procedures were. You can't get more specific than that. We do have an RVP team around the country that are anxious to help you develop and present these solutions to your clients. And our broker services team, of course, is ready to pay the commissions once that occurs. Right? So with that, let me turn back to Kat for the Q&A portion of our program.
Thank you so much, Kurt. We're now going to begin answering the questions submitted during today's presentations. And as a reminder, you can still submit your questions through the questions pane in your attendee control panel. So our first question is, do you have any recommendations as far as marketing to doctors and dentists?
I would say we deal with an awful lot of producers, as you might imagine, around the country. So we've seen a number of different approaches that work. Probably the one that has been most successful, presuming you have some type of business development organization or you're doing it yourself, and it's really a very simple approach to the doctors and dentists. The approach we've heard goes something like this, right? Is, Dr. Joe, I deal a lot with doctors and dentists, and one of the things I found is that they're often underinsured and oftentimes even have the wrong type of insurance for their disability income replacement needs. My approach is to do an audit for you. We're a disability specialist. So if you simply let me take a look at your current program, we get the copies of the policies and conduct the audit. I'll come back and let you know if we feel that the program as is really covers you well, or if we see some opportunities to better meet what your needs would be, we can come back and offer some suggestions there. And it's really as simple as that. It's getting the doctors to get comfortable with a non-threatening audit, and more times than not, that will uncover needs that have not been met, because it's just, unfortunately, there's not enough focus, in my opinion, on disability coverage in the insurance industry.
Okay, our next question is, who is MGIS?
I probably should have talked about that during the webinar, huh? All right, so let me talk about what and who MGIS is. MGIS is a program manager, and it's a fairly common approach in the property and casualty world. I do believe we're the only program manager in the life and health side of the industry. And what that means is, over the last 50 years that we have been in business, we have developed a particular expertise around the needs for doctor and dentist disability coverage. Right? Whether it be product development, marketing, underwriting, the whole nine yards. In many instances, we act like an insurance company for disability coverage for the doctor and dentist. Two things that we do not have is, we're not an insurance company, so we don't have paper, and we generally have chosen to look for organizations to partner with that have longstanding and capable claim adjudication capabilities. So as a standalone program manager, we partner with an insurance company that understands the risk and has the capital to back this type of disability product. In this instance, what we're talking about is our partnership is with Lloyd's of London. So we have the responsibility for the entire program. They're the ones who have the capital and will be paying the claims. On our IDI supplement program, that combination is ourselves and Sun Life. But with the partnerships combined, it allows us to bring the type of programs that doctors and dentists need to the market and help you provide solutions to your prospects and your current clients.
Okay, our next question is, how do we get promotional or advertising pieces to the office? Also, the RVP list is needed to contact in order to learn and market more.
Absolutely. What we will be doing at the end of the webinar, we will be sending a copy of the recording to everybody who is registered. Included with that, the copy of the recording in the email will be the list and contact information for the RVPs we have around the country. Simply have you contact that individual. But if there are any questions about that, once you see it, you'll see my contact information is up there on the screen. You can just come to me and I will get you in touch with the right person as well.
All right, our next question is, can the practice pick and choose participants, or do all employees fitting a particular class need to be included? Also, what is the minimum participation?
Sure. I'm going to answer the second question, what's the minimum participation, by saying it's going to vary, and therefore that's a great level of detail to get into with your local RVP. As far as more broadly, what type of picking and choosing can go on. Yeah, so we can either do the program as everybody's part of it, right? Or we can do it on a voluntary basis. The participation requirements will vary, and the guarantee issue requirements will vary depending on which approach is being taken and what the case size is. But as I said, that's the level of detail I think you'd be better served talking with your RVP about. In terms of classing out the doctors, you want some of them to be eligible for it, some of them not. That oftentimes can not only be the case, oftentimes it has to be the case. If this big spread in what the doctors earn, as I said during the webinar, this product is intended to focus on the real high earners, where they're not able to get up to that 80% net income replacement through the IDI and our IDI supplement combined. So oftentimes it's a natural requirement that they be classed out. But if you and the medical or dental practice you're working with have additional ways you might want to class people, again, oftentimes it can be done. It's an individual case-by-case situation that your local RVP can help you work with.
All right, this one is a two-part question. How does Group LTD impact the 80% income replacement? Does a client have to have the base IDI with MGIS before purchasing the high limit policy?
Okay, so as far as the 80% net income replacement, it's going to be, what we'll look at is what is total net earned income, right, from all sources. And I do say net earned income, not investment income. And that'll be compared to all disability policies that the doctor or dentist may have. So it'll take into account how much group do they have, how much IDI do they have. Occasionally there may be a franchise plan or two that they might have access to. So the short answer is yes, the LTD product gets taken into account when looking at the total 80% net earned income limit, as do any other disability policies they have. On the other hand, all earned income will be taken into account as well. It's not unusual for doctors in particular, and surgeons perhaps, to not only have income coming directly from their practice, but they've also set up and become part of a surgical center where they're a practicing partner, and income from both those operations would be counted towards what their total net income would be.
All right, our next question.
Kat, could you remind me the second part of that question?
Absolutely. The second part of the question is, does the client have to have the base IDI with MGIS before purchasing the high limit policy?
Got it. Okay. So a couple of things there. MGIS does not market a U.S.-based individual disability insurance product. We leave that to each of the financial planners individually to work with the carriers here in the U.S. that they feel are most appropriate. We then have our two products that layer on top of that. The first one, as we call it, is our IDI supplement. It's really an IDI-like contract, but it's on a group chassis, right? And now we have our third layer. So in order to receive an indication or a quote on the high limit program, we do need to either have the practice insured for our IDI supplement coverage or be quoting it at the same time. They wouldn't necessarily have to purchase the IDI supplement, that group-based product, in order to get the high limit, but we at least need to be quoting on it. And I had a discussion, in fact, with one of the planners the other day, and kind of the way he teed it up to me, he said, all right, so I'm going to put in this great IDI program, and I'm going to put in this high limit because this particular set of physicians needed it. He said, it probably wouldn't make a lot of sense to put a less strong product in the middle with that group chassis. So we'll probably do all three. We'll do both the IDI supplement and the high limit product with MGIS. So, while it's not required to be written, it does need to be quoted, and there's a lot of advantage to the doctor to make sure that he or she has the strongest definition of disability that they can get, that actual procedures definition for all three types of coverage that will make up their program. It probably would be a difficult situation if two of the policies paid and the third one didn't. Probably not a great conversation to have, but hopefully that answers the question.
I have sold other similar products. Why do you think your product is better?
I love to answer that question. So, look, and you guys will have to help us, myself and the RVPs, as we get into the more detailed conversations around this. But in our research in the market, we've seen 4 or 5 things where we believe this program has a real advantage for your doctor and dentist clients. Right? The first, as I continue to talk about, is the definition of disability. Our own procedure's definition of disability truly is unique. That you will not see that from any other carrier in the country or in the London market. Right? And being the most important thing in a disability policy, we look at that as the starting point for, of course, having an advantage for your healthcare providers. The second would be the 80% net income limit. Most of what we've seen from competing cover holders is either a 70 or 75% overall replacement ratio limit. So this is likely to provide somewhere between 5 and 10% more for the doctors that that do need it. The third one is the true guarantee issue. And again, if you see something else, please let us know. But in our review of the market, nobody else is doing true guarantee issue. There'll be simplified issue. It'll be called guarantee issue, but you have to, as one of the the partners at the practice has to sign a declaration saying that he or she is not aware of any of his associates who've missed work. That, to me, in my days in the insurance industry, that's not guarantee issue. That's still an underwriting question. So we really do true guarantee issue, no questions asked, right? The fourth one that we've seen as a typical is that most of the other cover holders who offer a product completely exclude mental and nervous as a disability. We, like our IDI supplement program, we have a 2-year benefit that's payable on the mental and nervous. And then the fifth one is something I also talked about during the webinar, and that's those 2 riders that pay when the person's not disabled. Those type of situations, the infectious and contagious disease, or the extended earnings benefit where the doctor has lost his patient load and now has to build it back up again. Those things are unique to doctors and dentists. So it's not something that other cover holders we've seen anyway have created. Those are the things that, because of our 50 years experience working exclusively with these healthcare providers, we know enough about it that we recognize they need this stuff and we make the riders available. So those would be the 5 things: the definition of disability, the 80% net income limit, replacement level, the guarantee issue, mental and nervous benefit, and then the riders.
Okay, I have another 2-part question here for you. Why does this own procedures definition make such a difference for the docs? And would you please explain what CPT and CDT codes are again?
Sure. Probably the best way to talk about the reason it's so important for the doctors and dentists is to give you an example. All right, and I'll go back to that Dallas knee surgeon that I was talking about, or I referenced earlier in the webinar. So think about it this way. The person, this is a real life scenario. The person had a good IDI product, bought a physician focused IDI product, and in this instance, he also had a group-based, a typical group-based product, although they did put specialty and subspecialty language in it, right? And they thought that was going to take care of them. Well, in his instance, this guy actually had invented a new procedure for knee repair, and it involved a lot of micro work on some of the ligaments. Well, with that palsy, he obviously wasn't able to do that micro work like he had in the past, right? And the IDI contract paid. I mean, it works the way it's supposed to. It says, show us what you've been doing using the CPT codes. If you can't do that, you're disabled, and that all worked. In this case, though, the group product, the typical group product, even with the specialty and subspecialty, it didn't pay. And the reasoning was pretty straightforward. If you look at orthopedics, although this one surprised me a bit, you'd think that there's 10 or 12 different type of subspecialties in orthopedics, given that they all work on just a joint. The ABMS, the arm of the AMA that actually recognizes and certifies specialties, there's only 2 in orthopedics. It's surgery of the hand and sports medicine. So for this doctor, he was considered a sports medicine orthopedist, right? And although he could not do that microsurgery that he was renowned for, he could, and rightfully, he could do other orthopedic work, right? So by the terms of the contract, he's not disabled. In fact, in this particular case, he sued, right? He was not a happy camper. And the court, sided with the insurance carrier, as it should have. The definition of the contract, by that definition, he was not disabled because he could do other things. That's why the own procedures definition is so critical, right? You don't want to be caught up in, as a doctor, having somebody tell you, having the insurance carrier tell you, you can do something else. It's not what they want in the disability product. So the own procedures definition really is the best and maybe the only way to truly ensure that the coverage the doctor wants, which is I get paid if I can't do what I have built my practice and built my family's lifestyle on. It's the only way to make sure that that happens. You know, I mean, look, if it's a catastrophic injury and catastrophic disability, everybody's going to pay, right? They will. That's, you know, carriers do this because they intend to pay claims if you meet their definition. But for doctors and dentists, they're disabled in their minds, and rightfully so, if they can't continue to practice exactly the way they have been. So that's why it's so important. Now, again, Ken, I'll ask you, I believe there was a second part to that question.
Yes, the second part to that question was, would you please explain what CPT and CDT codes are?
Okay. Yeah, well, what it stands for, first of all, is current procedural terminology for the doctors and current dental terminology for the dentist. And it's simply the medical profession's way of putting a number, a numerical value, if you will, to each of the individual procedures that a doctor or dentist might perform. It's used in a number of different areas. It's used in their, if they're trading files with the referring physician so that you know, the other physicians can see exactly what has been performed. It's used with insurance companies, with the accreditation. I mentioned ABMS. You know, so it's a numerical code intended to identify exactly what type of procedure the doctor has performed on his or her patient.
Okay, I have seen mixed results selling disability to doctors and dentists. What makes you think that they realize they have special needs for disability coverage, or that they will buy it?
That's you know, it's interesting because I had the same question when I joined MGIS, and the answer became pretty clear to me when I talked to my brother and sister-in-law. They are both doctors, and so I asked them, all right, so what do you know about disability? What have you learned? And I guess I was a little bit surprised. Maybe I shouldn't have been. He told me that when going through both medical school and residency programs, the institutions for that education actually also do a very good job of providing financial planning seminars to all the residents and the med students. He said he personally probably went through 8 or 9 of them over, you know, the number of years he was going through the program. And he said, really, he came out of that, and, you know, his wife concurred. 2 things stuck with them. The first is that if I'm a doctor, I have to have disability coverage. You know, we talked about the, you know, doctors being disabled at twice the rate as the rest of us, and how specific this stuff needs to be. So they really impressed that upon the students and the residents. You know, the other thing that they walked away hearing was, and you should only buy IDI because it's really the only type of coverage that's designed to pay when you need it in the way you need it, this actual procedure stuff. So the other part that tells us that they both recognize the need and will buy it is the last numbers I saw from Milliman, 40% of all individual disability policies in the U.S. are sold to doctors and dentists. Right? So as a group, as a segment, they really have demonstrated they both understand the need and are willing to buy it. And I'll take, you know, the next step. They're willing to pay for the product that does what they need it to do and they intend it to do, what they expect it to do, right? So that would be, you know, that's always been our proof source of doctors' recognition of the program and their willingness to pay for it. And we even get it ourselves. You know, about 1/3 of the cases on our IDI supplement program that we write every year with physician or dentist offices that previously had refused to put in a group platform product. And when I've talked to them, for the most part, it was because they came out with the same understanding my brother did, which was don't buy that group stuff, right? Or don't buy that high limit stuff. But when those doctors and dentists get a chance to hear from our RVPs working in conjunction with a planner, about how both these products really do mirror the IDI programs they were told they should buy, a good number of them buy it. So that's really our recognition of, they get it and they'll buy it. They just need to understand that this solution exists. Chad, I think we probably have time for one more question.
Okay, sounds great. Let's see. Can this high limit program be used instead of individual disability insurance?
And I'm glad somebody asked that. The short answer is it should not be, right? For those of you that work with individual disability insurance, in addition to the contract features we were talking about, the individual disability program also comes with either it's non-cancelable, right, or it's guaranteed renewable. So once you get the coverage, it's yours. It can't be taken away. Right? That's a feature that doesn't exist in any other type of disability program, whether it be our IDI supplement or the high limit program. So people really should buy their IDI first, get as much of it as they can or can afford or can get through underwriting for. Our other two products are really designed to then fill the gap between what that is and that 80% net income replacement need. So, get the IDI stuff taken care of first. Don't use this as a replacement, but use it to make sure they have the total amount, but always that right type of coverage that they need.
Okay, do you have any final words before I sign off?
I just want to thank everybody for taking time to join us here this morning. As I said, we'll be getting the recording of this out to everyone, along with the contact information for your RVPs. And of course, always feel free to shoot a note to me. I can get you in touch with them if that'll be the easiest way to do it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kurt. And thank you, everyone, for attending today's webinar, High Income Physicians Building Success Through High Limit Income Protection. If you have any other questions, please contact Kurt Meyer at kurt.meyer@mgis.com. Once you leave today's webinar, you will receive a survey on today's presentation. We would appreciate it if you would complete that and provide your feedback. You will also receive a follow-up email within 24 to 48 hours with a link to view a recording of today's webinar. On behalf of MGIS and our presenter, thank you so much for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day.